the line that I needed him to say was, "My name is not Cottonmouth." But every time he did it, he was just like, "My name's not Cottonmouth."
I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke.
The bulletproof black man. For the hard rocks, he's a ghetto boogeyman of their nightmares.
You can get a smack for this.
Really, guys?
You gotta know we tried, man.
I ain't no joke.
But one man cannot save a community.
You can't keep doing what you're doing.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And believe me, Luke Cage is nothing but a man.
Cheo, you are the epitome of my dream.
Oh,
a journalist.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I'm start off with the hard stuff.
Well, I mean, you know,
the epitome of my dream.
well, then, I mean, it's like, man, it's like either dream high or I must be a huge disappointment.
Nah. You went from being a journalist to seeing your vision to be able to put it on film. And I always dreamed of it, like I watch all these films, all this stuff. So I wondered, like, when you were in those journalist shoes, what was the toughest question you ever had to ask as a journalist?
Well, my technique as an interviewer is that I would spend all day with somebody, say like I was with Big, like, you know, if I was around Biggie and I was gonna ask him questions about selling drugs or about, you know, friends of his that died. My technique was always to just talk about the music and talk about everything else, and then with the final questions, once someone's comfortable, then you go in for the kill. Because sometimes your entire interview might only be about one question, but sometimes you have to ask 35 questions in order to create the world for this one question. And it's a lesson that I learned. The thing is that every single lesson that I learned as a journalist reflects directly back on how I run the show. Because honestly, I see the show as being like a big magazine, and I'm just the editor-in-chief of the magazine. You know, and as an editor-in-chief, you're a part of every single story, but each individual writer, with their byline, that's their story. And so it's a combination of having an overall vision for the show, but at the same time allowing, you know, the Aida Crowells and the Akela Coopers and the Charles Murrays and the Nathan Jacksons and, you know, the Matt Owens and the Matt Loses and, you know, everybody that is just, you know, coming with their different vision to do that, you know. Thing is that there was one time on set with Mahershala and we were on the roof. It was episode 2 of last season, and the line that I needed him to say was, "My name is not Cottonmouth." But every time he did it, he was just like, "My name's not Cottonmouth." He never really gave it like he does in the show. And I was just nervous, and I was almost pushing it. And the director said, Paul McGagan said, "Relax, he's building up. I've seen actors do this. You just gotta just let it go." So that by the time he said, "My name is not," like, it felt real.
Yeah.
And you just learn to just kind of like, you know, let something breathe, because you will have time to get to the point that you're trying to get to. And that's really just the main thing.
I've watched season 2. There's a lot of stuff we can't talk about because fans haven't seen it yet. But I do want to say that y'all see Brooklyn. It was Harlem all last time. Now you see some Brooklyn. And you deal with the lingo and everything. And it's sometimes hard to hear the patois of Jamaicans and everything, but you make it so that you can hear it. How difficult was that to weave this language in there, but make it palatable for like a wide audience?
Well, that's the thing. Like we don't make anything palatable. It's just like we just go for it, and people realize that you know, if you think of everything as water, if you stop thrashing long enough to float, you're going to be fine. And so rather than spoon feed or, you know, have somebody have you know, a weakened Jamaican accent to make it easier for people that aren't used to the culture to understand, we just threw them off the deep end, because that's what it's like when you're in Brooklyn. That's what it's like back in the 90s when I'd be at these hip hop parties, and then all of a sudden they're playing Tenor Saw, they're playing Supercat, or they're playing, you know, Don Penn, or they're playing, you know, Sister Nancy. You just would hear these songs, and half the audience, because they you know, they're from Jamaica or from, you know, or from Trinidad or wherever else, they're grooving, and you don't really quite understand the lyrics, but there's some power there. And the more that you listen to it, all of a sudden you like begin to understand the culture and the language and things slow down. I remember like first time I heard Shabba Ranks' roots and culture, I thought he was saying word him up. It took me a long time to realize I know my roots and culture, murderer. After a while, all of a sudden, when you make that shift and then you begin to understand what people are saying, then all of a sudden it has a much deeper meaning. The same thing happened, of course. I mean, like, that's why I love, the television show The Wire, because when you watch The Wire for like the first 3 seasons, and then you go back and listen to some of those Wu-Tang records, all of a sudden the skits make complete sense. Yeah. Because at first you're like why is Ghostface talking about his shoes and like what's going on? And then you watch The Wire, you come back, oh, they're waiting for the re-up. All of a sudden you have this much deeper understanding of the world that's being painted. But like the genius of Wu-Tang is like they know that half the audience has never been to the projects and has no idea what they're talking about, but they're just creating a world. And that's really what we try to do, is create a world, and then you bring people into it in a real way so that people from that world see it and recognize it and appreciate it, as opposed to thinking that, oh, they're just gonna come in here, do some surface shit and leave. Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I'm not in the market for a sidekick.
Who says you're not my sidekick?
Me? It's my show.